Good afternoon. Happy September. I'd like to call the Smart Cities and Service Improvements Committee meeting to order. Thank you all for being here today. Why don't we, actually we'll start with the code of conduct before we call the roll. So just a reminder to committee members and members of the public that we all will follow the code of conduct at meetings, which includes commenting only on the specific agenda item and addressing the full body, not individual members of the body. Public speakers will not engage in a conversation with the chair, council members, or staff. All members of the committee, staff, and the public are expected to refrain from abusive language. Repeated failure to comply with this code of conduct may result in removal from the meeting. Okay, so we're going to call the meeting to order and start with the roll.
Foley,
Here.
Jones,
Present.
Liccardo,
Present.
Cohen,
Here.
Mahan.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I see nothing on the work plan. Under consent, we have a staff request that we go to item D4 first. So we'll change the order if that is okay with the committee. Can I have a motion to go D4 first and then items 1, 2, 3?
So moved.
Second.
Great. Thank you. Why don't we vote?
Foley,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Liccardo, Cohen,
Aye.
Mahan.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I should just noted that's for staff availability, make sure our team can get out and do what else they need to do today. So Rob, with that, I'm going to turn it over to you to give us an overview of the agenda today.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Chairperson Mahan, Mayor Liccardo, Vice Mayor Jones, committee members, and members of the public. Rob Lloyd, Deputy City Manager for the City of San Jose. For our September meeting, and with the revised order just approved by the committee, staff will present 4 items. First, under agenda item D4, we have a status report on utilities assistance programs for residents that the Community Energy, Environmental Services, Finance, and Information Technology departments ran. This item speaks to outreach efforts and impacts, building on previous reports to City Council. Second, under item D1, we have a report on digital public meeting improvements. Our City Clerk, Public Works Facilities Division, and Information Technology team will update City Council on projects to modernize city facilities, meeting management, and hybrid participation to support a more digital public and workforce. Third, we have D2, which is a major status update on an initiative from the City Roadmap for Beautify San Jose Encampment Services status. This is the processes and system required to support coordinated response across many departments for homelessness and other related services. The Parks, Recreation, and Neighborhood Services, Housing, Transportation, Planning, Building, and Code Enforcement, Police, and Information Technology departments will be here to report on that item. And then last, we have under item D3, a status update on an initiative from the City Roadmap also, this one for the digital workforce work. The Human Resources and Information Technology departments will share efforts to continue digitizing and improving city work processes to be less burdensome, as well as create new resources to support a hybrid workforce. And with that, starting us on utilities assistance and efforts are John Kachmanian, Deputy Finance Director, and he'll lead off for the Community Energy, Environmental Services, Finance, and IT teams.
Thank you, Rob. Good afternoon, Chairperson Mahan, Mayor Liccardo, Vice Mayor Jones, committee members, and members of the public. Let's go back. I'm John Kachmanian, Deputy Director of Finance for the Revenue Management Unit. And I wanted to start off with the first slide. The COVID-19 pandemic led to significant financial hardship for many City of San Jose residents and businesses. This status update on utilities assistance programs will demonstrate the actions the city took to provide relief to those individuals and companies by implementing programs to address utility bills remaining unpaid due to COVID-19 related challenges. Staff will also present ongoing and future efforts to continue to assist residents and businesses with their utility bills, as well as touch on how the City Customer Contact Center works with customers to fully implement assistance programs. Soon after the public health emergency was declared on February 3rd, 2022, various time-limited moratoria were enacted by San Jose and the state of California to pause utility shutoffs, providing a critical reprieve to those businesses and residents who simply did not have the income to pay their water and energy bills. The city took further steps to provide utility arrearages relief by seeking funding from and implementing 2 state of California programs that used one-time federal pass-through dollars from the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2021 and the American Rescue Plan Act of 2022. This slide is admittedly a little busy, but it summarizes the 2 distinct state utilities assistance programs, one for electric and energy customers and the other for water and wastewater customers. Each state of California program was funded at a $1 billion level by the federal government, with similar guidelines on how utility providers would apply the federal pass-through dollars. Each program received funding to relieve debt accrued from March 4th, 2020 through June 15th, 2021. That funding would be applied as a billing credit to the eligible debt, regardless of income. It is important to note that customers did not need to apply to receive this assistance. For each program, the respective utility provider needed to apply the program funds within 60 days of receiving the funds from the state and waive all related late fees and interest charges. The utility provider also needed to offer payment plans for customers with remaining debt and cease all shutoffs unless the customer either A, did not enroll in a payment plan, or B, defaulted on a payment plan. Clean Energy's allocation was prioritized to assist active and inactive residential customers and was able to relieve only 47% of the electrical debt incurred during the relief period for a total of approximately $4.35 million in applied bill credits. The Muni water allocation enabled 100% of potable water debt incurred during the relief period to be forgiven, resulting in around $541,000 in water account credits. With that, I'll turn it over to Jeff Provenzano with Muni Water.
Thank you, Chair and Council members. My name is Jeff Provenzano, again, ESD, Environmental Service Department, Municipal Water System, Deputy Director. Most of the topic I'm going to go over today, the next few slides, are focused primarily on outreach with regards to some of the financial assistance programs available for water customers. When we look at outreach in general, it's really a 2-pronged approach. It's really trying to develop the most effective way of communicating across communities and demographics. At the same time, trying to set it up, the second prong would be to set up where it's as easy as possible for customers and residents to get back in touch with us or with the appropriate agency providing the aid. This is one of the 3 programs I'll just briefly touch on. And again, this is just some of the outreach that we've done. This program is our low-income vulnerable status program. This is a city program that we started back right before COVID, so about February 2020. There's 2 pieces here I wanted to highlight. One is the bill insert, that is the graphic on the right. That went out to customers about 4 to 5 months ago. That was part of their bill. I went to all Muni Water customers, informing them of this program, where they can go to apply, and contact information for assistance. Also, in the last few months, we've also developed a new online portal. This is a way for residents, other than calling in, to just obviously go online and try to streamline the registration process, so we can have them in our database and designated as either low income or vulnerable. For both of these documents, they went out in multiple languages, and the online portal is available in Spanish, English, and Vietnamese. Another program, you've seen this program before. This is the California Arrearages program, and we talked about it a bit beginning of the calendar year. This program is finished, but we wanted to highlight here, as the program ended back in about March or April 2022, there was a final piece of communication that we sent out to all recipients. Not only how much money was applied to their account and where it came from, but also we wanted to let them know of what additional financial assistance options were available. And we sent this out in multiple languages, about 6 different languages. This is really the main program that we have going right now. It's the Low Income Household Water Assistance Program. And I apologize, you've seen part of the slide before, a brief overview. It's really financial assistance to low-income households, and it's focused primarily on outstanding or due water bills, past due water bills. And this program is led by Sacred Heart. Sacred Heart is a local service provider. Really our role in this is to assist Sacred Heart. They're really good at this program and connecting with people, but they don't have a very robust outreach program. And so our role here is to get out there and get the message out as far as we can, as wide as we can, get as many people to connect as possible. We also have up here that San Jose Water Company in Great Oaks, in addition to Muni Water, as water retailers, all those private agencies are also doing their own outreach programs. And so when we go about our coordination with Sacred Heart and with these private utilities, we're really looking at not duplicating the effort or duplicating their message, but where are they going, what are they doing, and do they need any assistance, or are there any voids that we can fill from an outreach and communication perspective? This program is up and running. It started at the end of June 2022, and so applications are now being accepted by Sacred Heart. This is another form of outreach that we, for municipal water customers that we put together. It went out just a few weeks ago. It's a postcard notifying Muni Water customers of this program, who they can talk to for Sacred Heart, and also resources within the city that they can contact for different financial assistance options. This is another piece of outreach that we're doing. This is going out in September. This is another bill insert. A lot of this information is kind of repetitive, and we know that. We're just trying to put it out in different formats, different ways of receiving it to try and really just broaden the word and broaden the message and get as many people aware of the program as possible. Again, this is going into our bills in September. More information on the low-income household water assistance program, contact information for Sacred Heart, and that there are financial plans, payment plans available here with the city. In addition to these options, we're also working on a trilingual letter that would be mailed out to all Muni Water customers sometime in September, duplicating some of this information. Right now, we have a digital half page in the Evergreen Times talking about LIWAT program and encouraging residents to contact Sacred Heart or us for assistance. We also have a social media presence. We're talking about this in English, Spanish, and Vietnamese on Facebook ads. And coming up, we're working on an 11 by 17 postcard or poster, trilingual, that are ideally we will have posted at the call center, first floor City Hall, and at key community centers. Again, it's just another form of trying to get that message out there. San Jose Water Company, just a quick note on San Jose Water Company. Their program is very much identical to ours in their outreach strategy. They are focusing a little bit more on simplified Chinese to really focus on a key demographic within their service area. With that, I will pass it to Kia O'Hara.
Thanks, Jeff. Hi, everybody. My name is Kia O'Hara. I'm the program manager for the Customer Contact Center here in Information Technology Department. So I'm going to be discussing some of the customer service improvements, specifically for water. Representatives are encouraging customers to apply for the low income and vulnerable status that Jeff was just referring to, as well as providing some of the payment plan options that are also available. We have extended payment plans that are now available, and we are discussing that with customers as they call in, as well as there's improved billing verbiage in several languages, as Jeff referred to, and notifications of past due bills have clear customer expectations. Thank you. Right here, we're just showing the volume of calls that are received specifically related to water by my team. These type of calls are for starting and stopping of water services. Billing inquiries is our top call related to water. And billing inquiries, of course, includes online assistance with accounts, late fee waivers, payment plans, online assistance, and meter inquiries. And then this, of course, is the team. So if you've ever called into the city and you wanted to ask about Muni Water, these are some of the people that you might have spoke to. I'm going to pass it now to Zach to talk about clean energy.
Good afternoon, Chair, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council members, and members of the public. My name is Zach Strike. I'm the Assistant Director of the Community Energy Department. This slide shows a timeline of energy assistance activities for San Jose Clean Energy, or SJCE, customers. At the start of the pandemic, the state issued a moratorium on power disconnections, which meant a customer's power could not be turned off due to non-payment. This moratorium was in effect through September of 2021. However, PG&E had continued to pause collection into 2022 this year. Also, customers who stay current on a payment plan are protected from any collection or disconnection. We are outreaching with this message to customers as well. And no residential disconnection, which is handled by PG&E, by the way, can take place until October 2022. As John mentioned, the California Arrearage Payment Program, or CAP, funding is a state program using federal ARPA funds to help with overdue utility bills. And in addition to crediting customer overdue bills with CAP funds, San Jose Clean Energy assisted customers throughout the pandemic by connecting them with resources and programs to help them pay down debt and lower their bills. This involved an extensive multilingual outreach campaign that included funding community-based organizations to help reach Latinx and Vietnamese communities and those without access to internet. We'll talk about this more on a later slide. Given that CAP funding was not sufficient to cover the total reported arrearages from all of the electrical utilities statewide, the state set up a waterfall method to prioritize the distribution of funds. In addition, the state required that all active residential customers be credited the same percentage of their eligible overdue balances. You can see here that we assisted more than 23,000 customers through this program. Staff in the Information Technology Department helped measure the distribution of CAP credits in San Jose using the city's Equity Atlas created by the Office of Racial Equity. Based on the distribution of CAP credits, staff estimate that 59% of households receiving CAP assistance make less than $121,778 per year. Using the same Equity Atlas, you can see that 2/3 of CAP recipients have a racial equity score of 3, 4, or 5. Again, the state was very prescriptive about how the CAP funds should be credited to customers. This slide and the previous slide show only the results of the implementation of those program requirements. Here you can see some of the outreach in action. Our multilingual outreach efforts included resources and program updates shared in city flash reports on the city website and San Jose Clean Energy's website, targeted emails and direct mail to customers with overdue balances, digital advertisements on social media, Google, and YouTube targeted to communities with high arrearages, multilingual radio station public service announcements and advertisements on targeted Valley Transportation Agency bus shelters, outreach toolkits shared with community partners and council offices, webinars with community-based organizations in the San Jose Public Library, flyers and signage at libraries, community centers, and senior lunch programs, and partnerships with community-based organizations to share resources with traditionally hard-to-reach communities, especially those without access to internet or who speak other languages, such as Spanish and Vietnamese. I'd like to give a special shout out to Meta and ICANN for all their help connecting us to the Latinx and Vietnamese communities. Community-based organizations like them are trusted sources of information in our community. We could not have done this outreach without them. They've been incredible partners, and we're lucky to work with them. Final slide. Staff continues to promote programs that can help residential customers reduce debt and lower their energy bills through digital and non-digital tactics and partnerships with local CBOs. The left column on the slide has programs and rate options from San Jose Clean Energy, whereas the right column has programs administered by others, which San Jose Clean Energy actively promotes as well. Finally, Assembly Bill 205, signed by Governor Newsom on June 30th of this year, appropriated an additional $1.2 billion for a second round of funding through CAP. The Community Energy Department will follow the process that is established by the state to apply for and administer additional CAP credits to customers with arrearages. The schedule and details for this additional funding is still being determined. And with that, we're available for questions.
Great. Thanks, Zach, Kia, Jeff, and John. Thank you for the presentation. Obviously, really critical work to help our residents relieve this debt and move on as we come out of the pandemic. Why don't we go to members of the public if we have any?
Blair Beekman.
Hi, Blair Beekman here. Thanks for the meeting today. Happy September. Thanks a lot for this item. On the last few panels there, you showed, you're trying to show that the public ways how they can be a part of this new era we're entering and how they can get relief. from their utility bills. Thank you for that. It's a great example that we really need to be sharing as a community process, and it can make a great reference for people to refer to and to make things more clearly understood. Thank you. It's with that said, good luck on how to make sea level rise issues around the bay a more open subject that can be easier to talk about as a full community process in our future. With that said, I wanted to speak on the community energy items that it's my real hope that I've heard that the commission, the Community Energy Commission, is thinking of only meeting like every other month at this point. And I think as it's a board that is meant for the community. And I just hope the community can learn how to ask more about this sort of commission that's really vital. And it does a lot of important work and interesting work. And I hope there can be more community involvement with community energy, and that's its purpose. And so good luck how to consider those sort of options. And what I've been mentioning recently, is it time to consider to use hydro energy from northern regions again? Just to put that out there as a question for yourselves. It's cleaner energy, and it has a moral questions that you're worried about. So I'll respect that and make it a question for yourselves. Thanks a lot for this item and your work. Thank you.
Back to the committee.
Thank you. I am not seeing any colleagues with hands up here. I'll go to Mayor Liccardo. There we go.
Thank you. I thought I'd go straight to the actual hand rather than the virtual hand. I really appreciate the presentation in this really important program. I had a question that I guess, you guys talked a lot about the efforts that the city's making, which are considerable, and I appreciate all the outreach. My screen won't work, that's why I can't see it. Anyway, I'll just keep raising my hand. I appreciate very much the multiple ways. I know we have to be redundant and try and reach out in a lot of different channels to make sure that people in need get the information. I wanted to back up though just to the money itself, because as I understood it, there was $1 billion in each fund that was released at the state level, $1 billion for water and $1 billion for electric utilities. Is that right?
Yes.
And then, so if we think about what our share is, just as if we were to go just by population, I know with water, I guess we'd be smaller because our retailer has only what, 20% of the city, maybe less, 15%?
A robust 12.
12%, okay, sorry. Somebody said 20 the other day, I thought that was high. Anyway, yeah, okay. So let's say it's 12. Since you're the expert, it's probably 12. So, Jeff, if we were just to do the math, I think that means that our share of the water aid money, if we were to just look purely by population, would be about $5 million. And our share of the electric utility assistance would be about $25 million. Actually, I didn't do the math right, because $5 million would be if it's 20%. So let's say it's closer to $3 million. In any event, $3 million and $25 million. It looks as though we satisfied all the need we were able to identify on the water side. Is that fair to say? Based on the data we saw early on the slides, people are nodding their heads, so I think that's yes. Is that right?
Yes, for the arrearages, the arrearages program. Yes.
Okay. We think there's obviously more need out there, though, right?
Yeah, that was a window of time. So any outstanding debt from that window of time only.
Okay. So just doing the math, let's say our proportionate share by population was closer to 3 million. I think that would be more accurate. We're still really low. And if we look at the electric side, where our proportionate share would be about 25 million, or even lower. I know there are obviously higher need areas of the state, Central Valley, et cetera, and I wouldn't expect we get a perfectly proportionate share, but we are a very small fraction of our proportionate share. Can you help me understand better why we're not getting something closer to our proportionate share?
On the electrical side, all of the load serving entities like, including investor-owned utilities like PG&E, as well as CCAs, municipal utilities, everyone submitted what their overdue balances were from that window of time, March 2020, through through June 2021. And that's how it came out. And so some, on a population proportional basis, if you will, there were some regions that had much higher percentages of, much greater balances relative to their population size than San Jose Clean Energy did. But the rules of the program were such that that's how the funds were allocated.
Okay, thank you. And there were not enough funds to satisfy the need on the electric side.
That's right.
Okay, so I'm sorry.
No, I was just sorry to interrupt you, but so the second round of CAP funding is intended to do two things. One, to try to make up for, in that original CAP window, March 2020 to June 2021, any remaining outstanding debts, as well as covering debts for that second half of 2021, July through December. So it remains to be seen what the submissions are going to be, and will it be that same sort of proportion? But we will have a better shot, and it appears to be better funded this time. So yeah, we'll see.
Okay. And everybody throughout the state got the same ratio of dollars to
what they submitted.
need. Okay. That was uniform statewide. Okay. Thank you. Jeff, did you have any thoughts?
Well, really, just on the water side, yes, it was about $1 billion, and at the time, there was a big unknown in the state, a big question mark on what is the liability out there statewide, and there was some discussion of this back in the December timeframe, December last year, and that only about $500 million was applied for by all the utilities. So that left about $500 million unaccounted for, unasked for, and so the question at that time came, where's that going to go, and can we have a piece of that? And so there was some discussions. So there hasn't been any decision yet that we know of on that $500 million, but it was still there and unused.
It's amazing to me, given what we know about where water rates are going, but yeah. Okay, well, thank you.
Thanks, Mayor. Do we have colleagues with their hands up on Zoom?
There's no hands up.
Okay, I have just real quick questions, and then we'll entertain a motion here. On slide 13, Zach, you mentioned the CAP credits that the state rules were very strict, but I was concerned to see the low proportion of people being helped in that very low income quintile, it looks like. Can you just help me understand, was that expected? It seems as though the folks who are lowest income actually got the least share of the help. So can you help me understand why that is?
Pardon me. So the
Yeah, this is slide 13.
So there was
Maybe I'm misreading this.
No, you're right. So there was no income gate for the program. So anybody who had overdue balances from that eligible period was eligible on the same percentage basis. And so, I mean, it was strictly, I think this is a function, what you're seeing is a function of the accounts that we serve. So, the proportion of accounts that were affected, just happened to have this income distribution. So it's possible that the most, I think it's unlikely.
Okay, so is it, I guess I'm wondering if it's proportional to population or not. Is the help being skewed toward higher income residents, and why? Or is this actually mapping more or less to the distribution of these income levels in terms of the population we serve?
So it's just mapping to, and so just to be clear, this is not percentage of dollars. This is percentage of accounts
that received help.
Correct.
So I guess my question is this: your fifth, it's not really a quintile, is it? But level 5, which is households whose income is between $26,000 and $83,000, accounted for just under 4% of the households who were helped through the CAP program. But I'm guessing that the number of households, or the percentage of households in the city at that income level, is much higher than 4%. Is that safe to assume?
I believe that is true. I think what this perhaps counterintuitively seems to show is that our poorest customers were doing a better job of keeping up on their electric bills.
Is that right? Okay. And we don't, okay. And we don't believe that we somehow inadvertently missed them or they didn't, I mean, it was automated basically. If they had, okay.
Yes.
Okay. So there's not a design flaw necessarily in the price. I just want to make sure we didn't miss in our implementation or that the state rules weren't such that we were actually helping those who needed help the least.
No, I think it would
Failing
not,
to help those who needed the most.
it would not have been a function of a,
Okay.
a state rule, design flaw.
Okay.
If anything, it was something that we executed. I think it's highly unlikely, but we'll take another look and report back as needed.
Okay, yeah, if possible. It's kind of surprising to me that the households with the least income were the smallest portion of folks who were helped by this program. That's just very counterintuitive to me. So as long as we don't think that we inadvertently missed folks, that's fine. And then this is a question that's very out of character for me, but on all of the outreach that was described, which as you know, I'm generally the champion of, let's do everything from door knocking to being on YouTube and let's be everywhere. It strikes me that with energy and water, with ratepayers, it's the one place where we know exactly who the folks are, where they live, probably their phone number, and who needs help because that data is accessible. Do we feel like the resources we're putting into the broader broadcast marketing are resources well spent? And would we be better served putting more resources into the granular targeting of the exact households that we know need the help? Does that question make sense?
Go ahead, I'll start. It does make sense, absolutely. And when we look at our outreach, we're really looking at it as a dynamic program. Right now, is to blanket, get the message out there, but absolutely our goal is to kind of get down into tailoring it because we know where people are, we know maybe the neighborhoods, and there's more that can be done, more targeted. Right now, it's a very broad-based approach.
Don't we know, sorry to interrupt, but don't we know actually more than just the neighborhoods? I mean, don't we literally know the exact household, at the household level, the account holder who needs help and who doesn't? Basically, I mean, don't we know who, I mean, we know who's in arrears, we know how much, don't we?
Yes.
On a per account basis?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's also part of our strategy too. Yeah, we know who is, and before, as we're sending notices to people, because we see who is struggling on making payments, and
right.
A lot of this is outreach is also going targeted directly to those customers too.
Okay, great. So do we do phone banking to them, for example?
We do phone calls. Yes, we do phone calls, and then in the bill and mailers, postcards.
Yeah, okay.
Directly to that customer base.
Okay, and I assume of the mix of outreach, the majority is going to that very targeted, to the folks who we can tell need the help.
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, so we bought my colleagues a little time. Any other hands? Or are we good to go? Oh, sorry. Yeah, please.
I just thought it was a really important point raised by the chair on this chart that's still up on the screen. Because I'm still perplexed myself. And if we think about who's actually eligible for electricity assistance, I don't know if it was the same chart you showed before around income eligibility, but folks in the lowest quintile, and I guess marked by number 5 in terms of income, up to 82,000, comprises almost all the folks who would be eligible if I'm thinking about the same income eligibility. Maybe it was a different program, but we showed it this screen a few slides before that.
There's no income eligibility
Not
restriction on the CAP program. So
okay, so
indeed
just
you
by
had
design, this is just going to people with big utilities.
a very broad brush. Yeah. And if you had a very large, if you had chosen to sort of game the system and, not pay and have a $10,000 bill, you would have gotten 47% of that. That's the rule of the program.
So Elon Musk goes to Miami, doesn't pay his bill, and we pay it.
Potentially, if he had a house in San Jose. Yes.
Yeah. How about that? All right, thank you.
Okay. With that, unless there's anything else, why don't we entertain a motion? It is perplexing. Anyone like to make a motion?
I'll move approval of the report.
Second.
Great, thank you.
And could I just one follow up, since the public may be watching? We didn't set the rules here, right? This was the state.
Correct.
Okay,
yes,
good.
we had zero flexibility in the administration.
Okay, I wouldn't want anyone thinking we're happy with this outcome, because this is really dissatisfying. Okay, thank you.
Foley,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Liccardo,
Aye.
Cohen,
Aye.
Mahan.
Aye.
Thank you.
Maybe the state needs a smart state committee. Okay, so we are back to the top here with report one, which is our digital public meeting improvement status report. I believe we have Tony, is that right? No.
Yes, we have
Yes.
the city clerk, and we're being joined by.
you're there.
Yeah, yeah, over in the city clerk's box.
there. I'm just used to being here.
Yeah, fair enough. All right.
And then we'll also be joined by two others, one from Public Works Facilities and one from IT. But just as an intro item to let the slides get up, Tony Tabor, City Clerk, will introduce this item for her office, Public Works and Information Technology, on digital public meeting improvements. Tony?
Okay, I'm not used to somebody else running a presentation for me. Good afternoon. Today we'd like to provide an update to our hybrid public meetings improvement project. I'm City Clerk Tony Tabor. With me today is Walter Lynn, Deputy Director in Public Works, and Drew Hemedy, Project Manager from Information Technology. Next slide. We were last here in December 2021 to talk about digital public meeting improvements. At that meeting, we presented the results of our stakeholder input. At this time, we are providing a status report on agenda production improvements and projects to modernize meeting spaces, audiovisual systems, and broadcasting to enhance public meeting and hybrid participation by in-person and remote attendees. We will also cover the schedule and procurement process. Next slide. The City Clerk and City Manager's Office jointly manage agenda development for the City of San Jose public meetings. Across City Council, council committees, and over 30 active boards and commissions, 20 to 50 city employees participate in the planning, publishing, running, and completing records for about 40 meetings per month. The current software utilized by the city has a steep learning curve and can be time-consuming to create agendas. Additionally, many staff do not use it to create their agendas for various commissions due to this difficulty. The proposed replacement software should save staff time and allow for more commissions to utilize the software. It will speed up the turnaround time for minutes and recaps and will allow better transparency for the public, as they'll be able to search for topics within all agendas and not just council and council committees. In addition to the software, Public Works and Information Technology are completing sweeping upgrades to the audiovisual equipment in council chambers and meeting rooms, as well as throughout City Hall and other conference rooms, to provide higher quality experience for both the public, the council members, and staff. Next up is Drew Hemedy to take you through the timeline.
Thanks, Tony. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Honorable Mayor, committee members, members of the public. My name is Drew Hemedy, Projects Manager from the Information Technology Department. In January of 2021, the County of Santa Clara issued a request for proposal for a commercial off-the-shelf software as a service agenda and meeting management solution to assist its clerk of the Board of Supervisors and staff with needs matching the city's. Their staff identified requirements of preparing and submitting agenda items, developing agendas, preparing minutes, processing approved documents, and other records documenting board actions, streaming videos of live and recorded meetings, and facilitating meeting management for all county meeting bodies. Through its RFP process, the county selected a vendor as the best value proposer and entered into an agreement with the vendor in December of 2021. City staff utilized the county selection method to expedite the procurement process. A summary of vendor capabilities were presented to this committee back in December 2nd, 2021. So council approval will be required before the city's contract with the vendor is finalized and executed. The implementation of the software is anticipated to begin in October of this year, after the contract is executed, and ends in May of 2023. The deployment of the new software will be closely coordinated with the new audiovisual equipment in December of this year to ensure that they are functional together with no errors at public meetings. Training of council and city staff on use of the new public meeting systems is planned for June of 2023, and that's before council goes on break in July of 2023. The training will ensure that each department and office is familiar with the new system and that all prior data is effectively archived and stored. And now I'll turn it over to Walter Lynn.
Thank you so much, Drew. Good afternoon, Chair Mahan, Mayor Liccardo, members of the committee, and members of the public. I am Walter Lynn. I'm the Deputy Director for the Department of Public Works. Today I'll be sharing with you updates in regards to the capital improvements enhancements that we're planning for in the council chambers, the committee rooms, as well as the conference rooms at City Hall. As you recall, specifically for the antiquated equipment here in the chambers and the committee rooms, there is a need for a replacement of the audiovisual system. With some replacements that have been done in the last 5 years, there is the incompatibility issues that we're experiencing with still older system components, still back from 2005 when City Hall opened, as compared to the newer equipment and the newer software applications that are not quite compatible with the existing systems. And as such, we're still seeing some troubleshooting and glitches, unfortunately, occurring during live meetings. As such, a decision was made that we do need to overhaul the entire system, which would include a newer voting system and a new audiovisual system as well. The main scope of the work that we're looking at is replacing the existing system with an all-in-one unit, which I'll get into the photograph a bit more as well too, as well as the change out of the audio system components for the chambers and the committee rooms. The photo that we're seeing is a unit that we are anticipating to some degree to be replaced here on the dais. This is a sample unit that we had taken the existing touchscreen off of the dais just to see what it would look like in regards to the all-in-one unit for voting, which are the color-coded buttons on the left, the 14-inch touchscreen or larger if the technology presents itself as we begin the ordering. Then we have integrated speakers and then a port for a microphone. With that compact consolidated units, there is going to be more surface space at the dais for documents to use as well. So due to the complexity of the system and the overall project, it took some time to finalize the scope of work and to create the bid package with our internal staff as well as consultant services. The initial bid that we released was in early February of this year, with the bid opening in mid-March. 2 bids were received, though unfortunately both bids were deemed non-responsive and non-responsible due to bid irregularities within the submittal of the paperwork. And as such, staff re-looked and revised the scope and reissued the bid a month later in mid-April, with the due dates in early June. That particular bid release garnered 3 bid responses, 2 of which were considered responsive. The project was then awarded to the lowest responsive bidder in the neighborhood of $895,000 with a 15% contingency. What we're seeing here is the project schedule. This has been revised since we finalized our presentation last week. The contract was executed and received back by the city this past Monday, August 29th. We did release a notice to proceed for the contractor to begin starting next week already, with the first billable day 11 days later on September 16th. The design permit is expected in late October, with then a portable system to be in place in early January. The reason why we're going with the portable system at first is we don't want to decommission any of the existing system components until we know we have a portable system in place. And we have training for the staff to use so we can continue public meetings in the beginning of January until we can work on the permanent system and decommission that system and install at the same time. Our goal is to not interrupt any of the public meetings as we go along. And as such, the contractor is only going to be available to administer the construction work Friday, Saturday, Sundays, and Mondays, allowing Tuesdays through Thursdays still open for the physical space here and the use of the equipment for public meetings. Unfortunately, globally, we are still experiencing the supply chain issues. We are anticipating the equipment to arrive within 4 to 6 months. It could be longer depending on the chip shortage again, and that's what we're hearing currently as well. If all goes well and we're able to administer the project, we do anticipate the newer system to be in, tested, and commissioned by next summer 2023. For the other improvements that we are planning for in the conference rooms within the tower and the wing here at City Hall, it involves installing new audiovisual equipment, monitors, cameras, and audio systems, allowing the hybrid meeting format. Within the various conference rooms here at City Hall, there are some that had audiovisual equipment, monitors, and some camera systems, and then some that didn't have any equipment at all. For consistency and availability, we went through and assessed and inventoried all the different conference rooms, more so for the exterior conference rooms, as well as key interior conference rooms. Those are what the budget allowed for, to allow for more newer equipment, to allow for the hybrid experience. The equipment procurement is complete. That has been done, and installation and integration began in July, with anticipation for installation completion, testing, and then staff training this month in September. The primary reasons for administering this project are due to the obsolete equipment or no equipment in any of the rooms, as we had mentioned before. There's an understanding that we now have a more digital public and their choice to mainly remotely participate in these public meetings. We understand that we have to have better equipment and software to ensure the best user experience and engagement for all participants. That includes council members, committee members, staff, and the public. And we are planning on integrating the new meeting management system and new hardware to be compatible with each other for efficiency and continuity of the public meetings, not just for the now, but also to be more adaptable and that can evolve for any of the future's needs, really trying to future-proof what we have now so we don't have to do a major replacement or renovation again in the near future. Here's our project team consisting of the city clerk's office, city manager's office, IT, and public works. And with that, that concludes our presentation, and we're open to any questions.
Great. Thank you for the presentation, and thanks to the whole project team that's helped. Why don't we jump in?
Blair Beekman.
Openness and accountability practices, and I will be continuing to learn what that can mean. You know, with this sort of digital issues, and thank you just to the Civic-Centered Television Department. I think they do an amazing job. Craig Judson, when I write in with problems that you know, public meetings are having on YouTube and such, he quickly fixes the problem every time. And he's really great and nice about it. And it's that accessibility that I think is just vitally important to the whole process that he does really well. And just a real thank you to him and to the staff. Good luck in that continued good work. And it's with that you're describing in this item today, there's a whole new series of privacy concerns that will have to be considered. And for people like me, just everyday people wanting to attend the council process, how can that be safe for them? How can they feel comforted that they can contribute and not feel afraid? And that's through open public policies. That's being able to explain if people ask questions that you can honestly answer them. That's just all part of the future we're trying to build that's safe and accessible and not warlike and secretive. And that's key, and that's important to learn how to figure out how to do that. I hope we're doing that right now, and good luck how equity can help with such questions. Thank you.
Back to the committee.
Thank you. Okay. I don't have any colleagues here with their hands up. Anybody on Zoom?
No.
Apparently everyone's very satisfied with the report. Okay, well, thank you. I think it's great that we're moving in this direction and appreciate everything you're doing to make sure we can continue our business as this upgrade happens. I'll go to Councilmember Cohen.
I'm excited about the new technology. Looking forward to getting rid of these clunky things up here. Can you just tell me a little bit? I saw the thing about portable. What's that mean, portable versus the fixed equipment?
The photograph in the presentation. Sorry, John. So it'll look very similar to the unit that was shown in the photograph, where it is something that we could move mobily. So if we have a meeting, say in the chambers here, it'll still be on the desktop of the dais, very similar to the aspect of a touchscreen visually for voting. If we ever need to have a meeting in the committee rooms, we can move that mobile unit into the committee rooms as well too, or even on the 18th floor, 17th floor, wherever it is, we can have that in place. We want to make sure that that is in place first before, again, we do any construction work, so it doesn't impact or compromise any of the routine processes within a public meeting as we're doing the construction.
So we'd be using this portable version next spring while the permanent equipment is being installed. That's the idea.
That's correct, yes. And again, we are allowing construction only from Fridays through Mondays, including weekends, but hopefully expedite a little bit of the work as well too during the weekend timeframes, still allowing Tuesdays to Thursdays for public meeting space.
Great. Not seeing any other hands, I'll just thank Walter Druve and Tony again for your work on this and the great update today. Can we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Great, let's vote.
Foley,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Ricardo,
Aye.
Cohen,
Aye.
Mahan.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, great. We're on to item 2 as listed on your agenda, and that is the Beautify SJ Encampment Services Status Report.
Yes, thanks, Chair. We're going to be joined by a few folks. This is a considerable effort that draws together at least 6 departments to create coordinated response to encampments and associated needs, prioritized as a top initiative by City Council on the city roadmap. Omar Passons, Deputy City Manager, and Olympia Williams, Beautify SJ Division Manager, will start the item for the team, and Drew will be in a support role for the project as well. Omar?
Thank you, Rob. Good afternoon, Chairperson Mahan, Mayor Ricardo, Vice Chair Jones, and committee members. My name is Omar Passons, Deputy City Manager for the City of San Jose. I'm joined here with Olympia Williams, Beautify San Jose Division Manager, and Drew Hamadi, the IT Products Project Manager. The Encampment Management System application that you will hear about today is actually an expansion of the original request that will coordinate across at least 6 city departments and will create direct access to key data for elected officials, the city manager's office, and others to improve responsiveness and drive decision-making. The system will achieve 3 overarching needs. 1, improve system efficiency to deliver service, both cleanup and homeless outreach at encampments. 2, enhance the quality of our data at a system level that will improve not just trash removal and beautification, but homeless service connection, fire prevention, safety, watershed and stormwater protection, and other areas. And 3, enable direct limited user administrative access so that relevant departments, the city manager's office, and elected officials can pull aggregate level reporting data about activities and progress at encampment locations. These enhancements are in addition to the core functionality of managing encampment cleanup and are essential to improving the overall system. However, the best technical system will only work if its users are faithful to it. The system will help elected leaders and the public understand why the order of cleanup is what it is at any given location, and maximize equity and efficiency by using quality data and planning to drive action rather than other considerations. I will now turn it over to Olympia Williams of Beautify San Jose.
Good afternoon. Hello, Chair and committee members and members of the public. My name is Olympia Williams, Beautify SJ Division Manager. I am excited to be here today discussing this project. Today's presentation will focus on key objectives and how this new management system will support those living in encampments, the cross-departmental approach that we used, and priority features that will be included in the initial phase. Our key objectives align with the encampment management strategy of efficiency, effectiveness, and equitable delivery of services. First, we strive to be efficient in how we deliver services. This new system will allow for a more efficient method to submit service requests and eliminate the need for residents to rely on emails and phone calls to report issues at encampments, and for city staff to better track and respond to requests for services throughout the process. Second, city departments will be more effective as an intelligent intake process will allow the city to deploy the appropriate city team and resources and better coordinate work across program and department lines. And third, by having a method to easily pull data and generate reports, we can more equitably direct resources and deliver services. Additionally, this system will allow various city departments to better understand how well we are performing as a city team and providing services to those living in encampments. Allow us to build continuous service improvement and develop the appropriate performance targets and program outcomes. I will now pass it over to Drew for the remainder of the presentation.
Great, thank you, Olympia. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Honorable Mayor, committee members, members of the public. My name is Dhruv Amadi, Products Projects Manager from the Information Technology Department. So staff from the City Manager's Office, Parks, Recreation, and Neighborhood Services, Beautify SJ program, the Housing Department, Department of Transportation, Police Department, Fire Department, Environmental Services Department, and the Information Technology Department team to identify encampment data needs and key workflows required by the respective departments. SJ 311 was determined to be the primary channel for requests to be submitted and for communicating status. The process informs the development of the Beautify SJ Encampment Management Data Structure and Business System. So there are four key aspects to this project approach. Number one, a plan consisting of specific requirements and key features of that encampment system. Number two, the budget required by city staff to build and sustain the system, some of which has already been allocated to this effort. Number three, the procurement of products and services required to deliver the system and all prioritized requirements. And finally, a phased implementation approach consisting of an initial release, training and support, stabilization requirement, and subsequent iterations that produce valuable new features and reports over time. So here you can see a high-level process flow of our vision for the encampment system. Note that this is initial and will likely be refined over time. To the left are residents, council members, and staff who submit encampment service requests via SJ 311 and potentially other channels. In the middle, the internal work management system intakes requests, routes them to the right departments to address, and captures reports and analytics on services deployed. Finally, to the right are databases and systems maintained by city departments to be connected to the work management system so that data is effectively shared. So the encampment system will be developed using a mixed agile methodology. This will allow the city to build and maintain the best, most user-friendly system responsive to the needs of our residents and community. It will consist of the first release version of the encampment system with the requirements identified on the slide included, and then subsequent iterations of the encampment system based on user feedback. This implementation approach will drive continuous improvement of the encampment system and a bias towards incorporating the most innovative features to address encampment services and needs more efficiently, effectively, and equitably. So it's very important to note that the city is really entering uncharted territory with this system. Based on staff research, no city currently has such a unified system in place that addresses all of the aspects discussed. A high level of coordination will be required among a variety of stakeholders and partners. The system will need to be extremely customized to address the needs of our residents and to be well maintained over time. Finally, staff anticipates in the range of 15,000, 25,000 encampment services requests annually. This increased demand will impact the Beautify SJ team and associated departments. Past experience with SJ 311 provides a lot of lessons that staff will need to plan for that volume, how to incorporate proactive strategies and maintain equitable service delivery. Adjustments to required resources and service strategies will be evaluated during the first year as patterns and trends develop. So prior to our next update to this committee, staff will take the following steps. We will form the executive committee core team and set up a weekly implementation cadence and even look for interim solutions that can be utilized while the system is in development. We will go through procurement, award the contract to the right vendor, and implement the system. We will conduct an in-depth design review of the system. And then finally, we will go live with the best possible system addressing the encampment needs of our residents efficiently, effectively, and equitably. I will now turn it back to Omar Passon.
Thanks, Drew. I neglected to mention initially we were also joined by Andrea Flores-Shelton, Deputy Director for PRNS, as well as Reagan Henninger, the Deputy Director for Housing Department, key players in this process. As you can see, there is considerable complexity in a system for which multiple interconnected dependencies exist. Our approach will not only better align the work of multiple departments, it will drive development of clear performance, outcome, customer service, and equity measures, and will better support our collective understanding of the impact of our work, not just on beautification and cleanup, which is critical, but on helping improve the lives of San Jose residents, both housed and unhoused. Thank you for your time, and we are here for any questions.
All right, thanks, Omar, and everyone else who presented. Appreciate it. Why don't we go to the public?
Blair Beekman.
Hi, Blair Beekman here. Thanks for this item. This is things that are involving AI, it sounds like, in the future of your data collection practices. Good luck. Good luck in how to bring in, you're bringing in an efficiency here you're talking about very well, which is neat and exciting and hopeful. And boy, it's loud, sorry about that. But it's from that we really have to be considering the human element involved. Very much of a thank you that you talked about in June, that you're starting new equity with data collection programs. And that can really, really help address this sort of issue, because there's a human element component that, I don't know, just really needs to be talked about for this sort of item. I'm hoping that in your efficient practices, that this can also teach yourselves how the notification process of possible future asking people to leave encampments, that can be a process that can develop as well. It can be easier to simply make a notification process, a week, 2 weeks in advance that encampments will have to sometimes be shut down. But I hope, this work isn't just simply to lower the boom on encampments. You operate, it can provide services, housing support, and it's those kind of concepts that I just think are more interesting to talk about as a community process. And it takes a little bit of work, but it has a better reward in how to talk about those things more openly instead of how to better lower the boom on people. So good luck with this issue. Hopefully I've addressed a more open way these ideas can work in a more human way. I hope we're all figuring this out together. Thank you.
Back to the committee.
Sorry, thank you. We'll start with Councilmember Cohen.
Yeah, thank you. I want to thank you for this report and what looks to be a very thorough project. I mean, there's a lot of elements to this project. It's making me a bit nervous, all the things that this is trying to undertake. It also makes me particularly nervous when when we're trying to build something ourselves and start building an internal application rather than find things outside. So I guess my first question, talk a little bit about the scope and how we're going to build this using what we already have. I think there's some integration with SJ311 plus some new backends and a lot of things. Can you talk a little bit about how this is going to, what the timeline is and how it's going to, all these different elements are going to fit together?
Just one I'm going to pass over to Dhruv in a second, but I think just to frame out the sort of larger context about sort of building ourselves, it's important to recognize that what Dhruv was alluding to is that there are the combined pieces of functionality do not exist in any one system, but the core components, the issues around connecting people in an encampment to outreach workers, et cetera, those exist in Seattle, Denver, New York. So it isn't a fully customized, built from the ground system. It's a matter of being able to sort of integrate pieces that exist and then also design. And I'll pass it to Dhruv to elaborate.
Yeah, thank you, Omar. I think that's exactly right. So I think the core components exist to build this kind of solution, but the really heavy duty work is going to be kind of getting through what are all the different workflows and services that are related to encampment management. There are several. It's going to really be a coordinated approach among a lot of different departments. So really identifying those, building that workflow out, and then integrating our system that allows residents to provide requests to city staff, SJ311, but potentially other services in the future. Integrating that with an internal work management system that we could procure. We've released an RFI. We're kind of surveying and understanding the market better in terms of what's available, but integrating that with that intake system, and then also allowing it to speak with all the various databases the city currently maintains, so that all that data is available for staff to deploy resources effectively.
And actually, Vice Chair, let me start off. The first thing we're going to do is actually the human-centered design process and understand all the different stakeholders and what the requirements are. As Omar alluded to, we do see a lot of systems that do pieces. So the encampments management, the bio-waste reporting and resolution, some of the 311 vehicle complaints and those types of features. But merging across all those departments so we don't step on each other, that we're highly coordinated, and that we then have all the data feed into a data lake where we can assess our work to a performance standard and a customer service standard. That's new, and we don't see anything that does that out there. So the trick is, number one, understanding all of those needs and those audiences, internal and external, as well as Omar brought in, even how we interface with the county and the HMIS system so we can get to people that we're helping. That is a leap that we're going to be taking. So the next steps are actually to do that design work, to do the estimations on budget and the procurement process to map that out, and then to have another discussion with council about how this looks like in terms of resources to create it, to fund it, and then to make sure that what we build can last. And it is separate from the vehicle blight system, but they do have some overlap because some of those complaints do intersect. But this is big. You're absolutely right. And we do multi-departmental. Those are also high-risk projects. So you see all the smart people in the room and the dedication and sense of urgency on this one. Council put it on the city roadmap, so we know it's one of the things that we have to get done and then we have to perform on by the end of this fiscal year.
Great. So it sounds like what you're talking about is potentially bringing in some off-the-shelf things, but a lot of the customization is stitching them together and making them into a system that we can use.
Yeah, that integration map and then potentially procurement. And Omar has a lot of insight from his experience from the outside as well. But we have a lot of people with insights from a lot of different angles. So if there's ever a chance for success at this type of project, I think we have it. But there will be a procurement element in addition to the build. And it's just making all those pieces work together well.
So a lot of the elements of this tool are for some of our internal use, staff to use to keep track of everything that's happening in the encampments. You know, one of the things I was interested in was the ability for like a council office, for example, to be able to go in and see what's happening at encampments in our district. So when a question's asked, we can look and see what's already been done there, what kind of contacts have already been made, so that we have some context as we begin to respond to things that are happening in our own districts. How do you envision our offices being able to better respond to these kind of needs from our communities and constituents?
Thanks for that question, Council Member. And I think there are 2 points I'd make. One, I think the system that we're looking at, and it's a few steps early, but allows for user access sort of permission levels at the aggregate level, right? So while it will be true that there will be personally identifying data that will not be available because of all the privacy restrictions that you're familiar with, but there will be a way to set permission levels so that staff members and council offices, et cetera, will have an opportunity to pull aggregate reports about X location or Y location and be able to understand that piece. Part of the reason that I'll just add that it's important that we have the portion of this system that is connecting to the outreach ecosystem is that part of our current system involves notifying outreach before an encampment might be disbanded or abated. And so our ability to streamline that process, to make it clearer and automated, will improve our ability to get that support out there.
Okay, yeah, and I heard you say before aggregate level information. Obviously, we wouldn't want to have access to individual identifiable information. But when I heard aggregate, I was thinking, larger scale like district level. But having aggregate information about a specific location is very helpful to us as well. And so you're saying that kind of information would be available. At least that's the goal in the system eventually.
I think that's a good way to describe it as the goal of the system. There are obviously some in the design process that Rob was just alluding to. Figuring out exactly what that looks like at the encampment level will be important. An encampment with one person becomes really hard to make it anonymized. An encampment that's a half a block or something is a little bit different. So that's part of what our team will have to work through for sure.
Right, and that's understood. We often also need to have just visibility to how many people are in our district, how many people are on the streets in general. What's the distribution of them? We often, as I drive around, I even see spots I didn't realize existed and maybe other systems knew about. Will this help us have some visibility as to those kind of numbers that we have around the city?
So the short answer is yes. I think the more nuanced answer is, again, as the system gets built, one of the pieces that's important is around geolocating where people who are experiencing homelessness are, at least in a proximate level. And there are a number of other systems that have done that around census, et cetera, where you sort of geolocate to not the exact location, but very, very close, so that you do get some of that anonymization. But it's important, for the point you mentioned, for you to know how many X, fill in the blank, are there in this part of my district or that part of my district, so that as you as our elected leaders start to plan and budget, you can do so in a way that's driven by like accurate data. Now, people move, we understand that, but what's sometimes surprising is we see that people often do not move as much as we think they move, and so we'll plan that out, and as Drew alluded to, there will be an ongoing sort of continuous quality improvement process to identify how much movement is happening.
And this gives me a chance to, oh, sorry, did you want to?
Councilmember, if I can also add, I know in our previous conversations, there's been a lot of interest in knowing, has someone been to the encampment? Has cleanup occurred? Has outreach been there? We're hoping that with this system, that'll be easier for council offices to pull. So you get a complaint on Monday or Tuesday and someone says someone wasn't there, your staff can say, oh, the encampment was actually serviced on X, and these are the types of services that occurred at that particular location.
You read my mind on the follow-up question. I was going to ask exactly that, because my primary interest is being able to say, when a resident says, we've got this encampment here, for me to say, well, 3 times this year we've had staff go out, talk to the residents. Some of them took service. I mean, if there's any kind of information that we can have that, that's somewhat aggregated, but just says, hey, we placed several people, we've actually provided services X, Y, and Z to this site. It helps us be able to communicate with the residents about what we're getting or what maybe else we need to do at that site. So I appreciate that. Thank you. Is this system going to be able to tie into the homeless management information system that we have?
So the TBD, I think, is the answer on that. It's other communities have found a way through data use agreements to create bridges between systems. Actually, Homebase, a consultant that does a lot of work around this region and elsewhere, actually released a pretty comprehensive report about that bridging process. But I would say, as to Santa Clara County, we're going to have to carefully work with our continuum of care about what that looks like, where the firewalls are, and how to get the data. It's more like a precursor to the HMIS system, right? Because we don't want our public works person who might come in contact with a person on the street. They're not going to be in HMIS, and they shouldn't be, but they should be able to easily connect to somebody who is, and that's the connection we're trying to make.
Okay, thank you. And my last question, kind of a follow-up to the very first one about, we don't have an off-the-shelf solution. Obviously, we're combining some off-the-shelf solutions. We're building something somewhat custom. It occurred to me that it's not just about this project, but about other things we've done as a city. Other cities would love to be able to do some of this. Have we ever considered how we might build some of these systems collectively with other jurisdictions so that we're not inventing things locally, and even when we're done, we can, whether it's sharing the resources to build it or even sharing the technology we developed for some revenue to help other cities build their own systems?
Yeah, I'll take the first sweep at that one, and then Omar and Drew can speak to this in particular. So we have that experience. We with Exigy and the housing system have actually done that before with was it Contra Costa or San Mateo County?
Yep, San Mateo County.
San Mateo County with the housing system. That would be our approach. We like doing it once and then sharing it and then sharing the load. There will also be the kind of the staffing plan and the budget plan that comes along with that. We'll see what we can do, and then we do have it as a to-do to reach out to potential partners that if we can make this investment and do a good system, who wants to be along for the ride. And we've been able to find partners, at least in the past, to be determined on this one, of course. And then there's also still the lingering question about Beautify SJ is funded mainly by one-time funding. So how we connect those dots is more of a conversation we're going to keep on having with council.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Councilmember Cohen. Some great questions. I'll hand it over to Mayor Liccardo.
Thanks. Yeah, I was about to ask the HMIS question myself. Appreciate Councilmember Cohen's going there. I can't help but think we've got to get to either an agreement with the county that enables us to get some level of access to HMIS. We don't need to know the medical information, but at the very least, we need to be able to identify people by at least what name they want to be called in some way. Because we've been through so many of these challenges where, to take the Guadalupe as an example, we've said, okay, we're clearing the area. Everyone's here is going to get housed. Nobody else move in. People move in, and we need to really be able to identify who was there, who wasn't, so we can at least provide the appropriate level of service. And in some cases say, well, you can't be served here because this is not where we're housing anyone. And so I guess I just want to ask, are we starting conversations with the county at this point about forming some kind of data trust where we can get some level of access to HMIS, at least to be able to identify people?
So there's a couple answers to that question. The first is we have started having conversations with the county, but I would call them very early. I mean, we're still early in the pre-design on this, and we want to try to be good partners at the very earliest stages. So part of the answer is, yes, we understand that there needs to be some connectivity to the HMIS and the continuum of care. The other, though, is it's important to consider this as almost like a daisy chain to the HMIS system. They have a process, and they've shared the process by which some of our people could actually become gain access to HMIS. So it wouldn't be a hard firewall, but the thing is, it's who we want. We do want our therapeutic folks that are going to be coming on board in Parks, Recreation, and Neighborhood Services to have access. That makes sense. We probably don't want some of our folks who are not involved in homeless outreach and services. So really, it's about sort of managing those connections.
I just want to add something, Mayor. Reagan Henninger with the Housing Department. The homeless response team does have access to HMIS, and we pull reports and we look up people, and we have a coordinated joint list. Using your example of Guadalupe Gardens, we have a coordinated joint list for the people at Guadalupe Gardens. So we do have access, but I think it's, as Omar articulated, it's how are we getting the systems to talk and share information.
Okay, thanks, Reagan. Appreciate that. Thanks so much. So at the very least, today, we can readily be able to say, I know this person was here the last time we did this outreach in this encampment, right? We can identify a person who was there previously or not.
So the challenge in HMIS is it does not always have a geographic or geolocator. So you may not always be able to identify or associate Joe with encampment on Guadalupe River Park under 280, as it currently is in HMIS.
And is the county receptive to being able to start to geolocate people? I mean, I'm thinking about just basic issues like somebody's been waiting for 3 years for a Section 8 voucher, and we got to go find them so they can get a voucher. Seems like if we don't know where they are, that's hard.
So yes, we have been talking to the county about what we call an encampment outreach model, which could set like geo fences, if you will, for a specific encampment. And we can geographically assign someone. So for example, in HMIS, we have created a location for all the Guadalupe Gardens people, but it does not happen consistently in HMIS. We know there's 200 encampments or more in San Jose. There are not 200 encampments in HMIS.
Right.
Geofenced, identifying
Yeah.
Joe at Santa Clara and,
Okay.
13th Street.
Mr. Mayor, if I could add to that, the company that runs HMIS in Santa Clara County was also the company of record in San Diego County, where I came from, and they actually we worked with some of the folks who utilize a module that is not currently deployed here, but is deployed there by the same provider. When we were building an RFP in San Diego County for a big portion of this type of service. So making sure to align with what we knew the system could do and what it was doing in practice in San Diego County to get at some of the points that you're raising.
Thanks. What does, I read that is, we're anticipating 15 to 25,000 service requests a year, I assume, that is. What does success look like for 25,000 residents who are calling or using 311?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I think we look at success in really three different buckets. Number one, performance, right? Are we delivering the services our residents are asking us to deliver in a responsive way, and in the right amount of time? Those are performance metrics. Then we got to look at customer service metrics, which is, are customers and our residents pleased with the level of services that we're providing them? And then finally, number three is really looking at continuous improvement. So are we constantly thinking about where we can improve, deploy services more efficiently, equitably, and effectively over time? So I think if you look at metrics, we haven't determined specific metrics within those buckets yet, but I think that's the way we like to think about, are we doing a good job here?
Thank you.
I'd like to add something. This is Andrea Flores-Shelton, Deputy Director with PRNS. I also want to just have the caveat in terms of responsiveness or customer resolve.
Yeah.
That encampment management is different than removing graffiti.
Yeah.
Encampment management is different than has that vehicle been towed, a non-lived-in vehicle.
Yeah, I think you anticipated my question, Andrew.
Yeah. So back in May, we walked you through sort of our decision points, but also our goal about responsiveness would be, thank you, we understand there's an encampment there, we will assess it. When we go to assess it, are we providing it at one of our trash services, right? That could be resolution. It is now enrolled in Cash for Trash. It is now enrolled. It is now going to receive biweekly service, weekly service, whatever that need is to reach cleanliness, cooperation. Or it could be, wow, this is not in the right location, so we may need to abate. So again, back to what the customer wants, we just have to manage expectations around that with this crisis level situation that we're creating a service delivery model for.
Mr. Mayor, I think it's also useful if we zoom out from some of the sort of immediate level conversations to get to what does success really look like. We have to have a better handle. We're talking about expanding one part of the funnel, right? But there's got to be enough human beings to go connect with the people who are there, because ultimately we don't want trash and people living on the streets. We want them in houses, but we have to figure out like how big, get our hands really around how big that issue is across these encampments, get a common definition of encampments, be able to figure out, like, do we have enough outreach actually getting there? Those will allow us to get to, I think, the practical performance question, which is what's happening at a macro level with getting people out of the streets and also keeping more of our public spaces clean and well maintained.
I appreciate all the responses. I guess going to the first response, which really broke this down into kind of three questions, which is, what is the resident asking for? Is the resident satisfied or happy? And then third, are we improving? I really appreciate the third, which is, are we improving? I think this is going to be really important and helpful for us to understand how we can improve our response in lots of ways. I think, as suggested by Andrea's remark, I think we need to rethink those first two, because we're not responding to, in this case, to resolve the concern of a resident. We're responding to do the best we can to provide services to people who need services. In a happy world, those services would include housing. And where they don't include housing, we do the best we can to ensure at least that people are safe, they're living in a sanitary condition, et cetera. And so I think it's really important for us to spend the time to be really explicit about what success is with this. And with 25,000 service requests a year, if that's what we anticipate, obviously, if we track, is the caller happy with the outcome? Well, we're going to have a very small percentage. We're going to be happy because what they want is for the encampment to be gone out of the park where their children play. And the best result may be that we manage to move the encampment to a place that's far away from the playground and a place that is relatively clean and sanitary, and we've got people hooked up and in a system where we hope within a matter of weeks or months we can get them back on their feet and housed. So I can't help but think that part of this in this system, and I know this has been an ongoing pain point with the 311 system, isn't just about providing the service, it's about providing information back to the caller, back to the resident, and educating residents about this is what we are able to do or this is what we are going to do. So your expectations are not going to be unmet. Your expectations are going to be clear when you call, that we're not going to house people where we don't have housing. And what we are going to do is at least address if there's a safety issue or some other issue that we can address, and hopefully get this person on a forward path, whether Cash for Trash or another program. So I just think we have to be super intentional about that, and both, as a group within the city and then also externally.
Thank you for those. Oh, sorry, Rob. Just real quick, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for those comments, and I think Andrea's comments and yours evidence some of that intentionality. I think one of the things that this type of combined tool allows for is the budget and policy level systems thinking, because when you can actually look at a collection of well-defined encampments and well-defined numbers of people, you can start to say, well, we can't do it this way moving forward because we're not going to meet it. We need to make other changes. And I think that done well, we should be able to inform you all as elected leaders about not just impact, but also how do we need to maybe change some of the way we manage this issue. Rob?
Yeah, I appreciate that very much. I agree this is going to be very valuable information for policy makers and for all of you and all of us. I mean, I ask myself all the time, how are we really doing with Cash for Trash? And we just had some of our team members out there talking to residents yesterday, and the response from the unhoused residents was really positive. But I know we'd really love to know, is this helping them get to the next step? And those are the kinds of things that would be really helpful if we had data that actually was enabling us to identify people and how they're doing.
Yeah, and three comments, mayors. In the language, you'll see that we said follow through and follow up. The follow through is written not as the as measured by that will come up with acknowledges what you're saying. Is sometimes the success measure isn't complete fulfillment. It's not trash is there, trash is removed. There's a continuum for some of these people and how we can help, and some of it's voluntary and so forth. So the follow through, we're actually going to have a conversation with council as well as staff about what are those meaningful measures and are we tracking together the best measure of success that we have.
Yeah.
And the follow up is exactly what you said about the communication. Sometimes we can say, here's what we're doing, and this is the reason to response, but it might not be what you want to hear. And we see sometimes you have contentious transactions where some people want all cars towed, and the people who own those cars say, I don't want my car towed.
Right.
Those types of interactions both have a right, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But you're also right, the continuous improvement, probably the greatest treasure in this process is going to be how we track and monitor so we can be more insightful and see the patterns and make better decisions. But it will be a process to work with you and staff to figure out what that data is telling us and where we want to press the needle and bend the arc.
Great. Thanks, Joe. Yeah, and I hope that we are spending a lot of time thinking about how exactly we are, whether it's through an automated process like 311 or more broadly, how we're informing the public about why they're not satisfied. You know, what is we're able to do, what we're not able to do, and why. I think that's important for the public to hear. I was nudged by a member of our team in innovation and technology around whether you might need some help getting a Fuse fellow or two on board. It sounds like this is a pretty big undertaking, so please let us know if we can help to provide some staffing up, because I know this is going to require a lot of minds involved. And then I just hope that maybe one thing we could think about is integration with the abandoned vehicle response. If we are really able to integrate HMIS in a meaningful way, as we're now doing with outreach, into a broader encampment response, if we were also able to do that with vehicles, so that we could end the sort of the state of paralysis that we have with the situation of our city staff are responding to an abandoned vehicle call, not knowing whether or not somebody's living in the car or not. The ability to integrate that so that they can just tow a car if they've been there for 4 times and nobody's been in the car for the last 4 times they've checked. It would be nice to see this all integrated in a meaningful way. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'll just, Drew mentioned in one of the slides, I can't remember which one now, that in the sort of maybe second generation or after the first implementation phase, looking at how to do that. And the one, I think, additional nugget there is Vice Mayor Jones and Councilmember Mahan actually brought forward an item that we'll be coming back with in November that will essentially start to really marry some of these conversations that you're talking about. So just know that we are mindful as a collective team about how those things line up.
Awesome. Thanks, Mayor. And I think it was very well articulated, but I was also going to bring up the question of managing expectations. If I've learned anything from watching the way that the community has reacted to our efforts to address abandoned vehicles or illegal fireworks, it's that gap between what our constituents really want to see and what they hope we can do for them versus what's realistic. And I think Andrea said it best, which is expectations up front is just so important. And I would even encourage us to consider how much of the solution we need is actually internal encampment management data and tooling for us as a government to manage our workflows and provide the services we need to provide versus a constituent services portal. Is the starting place really constituent requests and concerns? Or is it maybe before we even integrate with 311, really nailing down the data or CRM management that we need to deliver the services that we want to deliver to our encampments? And I'm not sure if you're thinking about it from both angles, but there's sort of, what's all the tooling we need to be organized and understand what's out there, and not even starting complaint-based, right? Because I worry the moment we plug in the complaint-based piece, we're going to get those 25,000, maybe it's 50,000 complaints. And we saw that with abandoned vehicles, and now we're scrambling to reactively say, like, okay, how do we reset what we're doing? And really, I think a lot of what we need right now is just all that integration, not just across our departments, but also with the county, and I assume Valley Water and Caltrans and other stakeholders. And maybe we should just focus on the data management, the CRM, the integrations for ourselves before we even think about the 311 integration. So I don't know if I'm being too aggressive in that comment, but if anybody wants to respond, please do.
I'll start and then maybe go to Rob. Councilmember, I think that's actually really smart, frankly. I mentioned earlier the funnel. I know you have talked about funnels. The more we widen one piece without actually dealing with the others, it just sets almost the entire system up for a letdown. So I would just say, I think if this committee is inclined, I think that's a very, very smart approach that would help improve the system in its early stages.
Yeah, and I'll harken back to our discussion, Mayor, back in end of 2016 on My San Jose, which became SJ 311, where we said the technology is hard, but it's actually the easiest part.
Right.
The people and the processes, getting all that lined up is really the toughest part. And that's where we really have to think about who is involved and who's impacted and what the pains are. And we totally agree. We have actually had a debate about also fireworks for the same reason, is until we can get to a point where we can communicate and say what success is, the technology is just going to make it more easy to complain that it's not working. And then we got to a fairly reasoned process of here's how we can respond better and actually cite, use the data for proactive response, but we could get there. But we totally agree with you, and it's actually on the very first meeting with Olympia, Andrea, and Reagan when they said we need to do better internally. That was the heart of their conversation, saying the tool needs to help us coordinate best first, and then we can broaden it out. So I think we're of all the same mind.
Can I just add, I just do want to flag, and I said this probably a year ago when I first joined Beautify, though, we cannot have a system that is email Olympia Williams, email Homeless Concerns, email Beautify SJ. It is wholly inefficient right now, right? So this, yes, and as I've kind of advocated for, we absolutely need an integrated system, but how can we get some early wins, right? So that our staff can be more efficient. We can work on the response versus just this intake that is coming from so many places. So
I think that's a great point. I might suggest, though, that we start with the customer being the council offices before we open it up through 311 to potentially 1 million people, just to test the system of submitting requests and complaints and concerns and getting good at streamlining. I'm cognizant of the fact that I use the chair's prerogative, but I may have colleagues with hands up online who have been waiting a long time. Do we have anyone with their hand up?
Councilmember Foley.
Oh, great. Councilmember Floyd, why don't we go to you? And I know Councilmember Cohen wants to jump back in a moment as well. Go ahead.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Although at this point, a lot of my questions have been answered, but I will emphasize a couple of things, and I do have a couple of questions. I really appreciate this coming forward. I think streamlining this and making it more integrated from city staff to the resident to the council office and to all the departments involved is a huge undertaking and something that we really need to be working on. I didn't hear the answer to the timeline question. When is it likely that we will roll out a beta test of this on 311 or wherever we decide to roll it out?
Do you want that one, Drew?
Yeah, council member, we plan on having our initial release done by end of this fiscal year. So by, around summer of next year.
And if I can add on to that.
Oh, okay, this fiscal year. I was thinking December, and that's way too close. Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry, Rob, you had something?
Yeah, I just want to line things up. So as we do this design process in the next roughly 2 months, then there is going to be the budget and procurement questions.
Yeah.
And those will take time at least through December. And then there's going to be the procurement prioritization if there is an outside system to procure, or we can look at co-ops as well. But we expect really the earnest work on a system to begin the beginning of the calendar year, and then to carry through the end of the fiscal year, so through the end of June. We'll keep you posted, though, if there's any places we can accelerate.
Okay, I appreciate that. That just gives me an idea. The council offices spend a lot of time in various stages of encampment management, whether it be a resident contacts us directly and they need some help or want to get some questions answered, and then we're emailing or calling the various departments. So Andrea, I appreciate your comment about emailing Beautify SJ or Olympia is not the solution, although she's very responsive. That's why people email Olympia. And we appreciate that. And welcome to District 9, Beautify San Jose, Beautify SJ. So I think comments already been made by Councilman Mahan and I think Cohen about integration or involvement with the council office. I think that's really critical that we get involved with them and we interview them and find out how the council offices work with the system or work with our residents. So do we have outreach or focus groups planned for meeting with our 18th floor staff?
So Councilmember Foley, this is Omar. I think Rob alluded to a design center, sort of a process that will roll out. I can tell you that the number of people internally, exclusively at this point, that we need to understand how they will use it, how to set that administrative user access that we talked about earlier in a way that is of value to your staff. So I think that piece is going to be an important part of our discovery process. And then as Rob, having been down this road quite a bit, I'll see if he has anything to add.
Yeah, the answer is yes. So we'll need someone from you as your main representative. If they can contact Drew, we're going to reach out regardless on the human-centered design. But if you want to go ahead and let Drew and Olympia know early, we'll have their names down for that HCD process.
Okay, great. I appreciate that. And then there's the focus is on the customer use, and San Jose 311 has a lot of functionality, but the feedback or the resolution that the customer currently receives sometimes is a little problematic. So I just want to understand how will the customer know that the situation has been resolved, or to the mayor's point, to resolve to the point that we can resolve it. So how do we plan to set the expectations for our residents calling in and complaining about or saying something about an encampment, and they want it removed, but we're not going to remove it? So how are we going to educate them on what this is all about and what we intend to do with this their request?
Councilmember, I think I can take that one. There's two things that we've learned from SJ311 is on the initial contact, we do need to be very open and thorough about what to expect next. So here's the team that it's going to, here's the process we do, sometimes here's some links to additional information. And then the second response is our next and only last chance to really get a positive customer experience. So sometimes we have to say, no, that is a legal thing that they're doing. It's fine. But we have to actually explain that rather than just say, for example, closed. And we've learned that lesson repeatedly and thoroughly. And so I think where that's going to come up in this project is we're going to have some concentration from staff on the messaging, writing those, continuously improving the narrative that goes out to folks, and to also give staff automated responses where they say, all right, using this information, here's a thorough response, and it fills in just some key fields, but it gives them the full answer rather than just a short shrift of a ticket closed. We do know that really frustrates people. But let me see if Olympia has anything to add, because she has so much of that on the street experience.
Definitely. I think this is a great question. In my plan, you guys know that I'm engaged with all 200 plus neighborhood homeowners and business associations. And as we start to roll out this new process and how we will be taking intake, it's really my goal with myself and the team to start to get this information out to our neighborhood associations and our leadership groups, because quite often they've been the voices to help us get information out to other residents, but being very honest about what we can resolve, how we'll go about resolving it, and the timeline that it will take, and then also providing additional resources. I say that because encampment management is one of the items that we have, but oftentimes we have residents and neighborhood associations that are also interested around things with graffiti, illegal dumping, litter, trash, etc. So really how we message how we'll be addressing trash in general, addressing blight in general, and the services that we'll be providing to our unhoused residents and what people can expect.
Yeah, no, Olympia, you're fabulous at delivering that message at neighborhood associations. It's up to the neighborhood association to extend that information out, and it's up to the council offices to do that as well. So it's really people will go to SJ311 and submit their request, but if they don't know what the resolution is going to be, or if they have a different expectation than what the reality is going to be, that's where people get frustrated. But if they know that ahead of time, they won't be as frustrated, and then we won't have to manage it. We'll manage it differently if they know what's going on, and we can still go forward to try and help them out. I really appreciate that. Thank you. The last question I had you've all used this term several times in your presentation. I'm just trying to understand what it will mean. You use the term equitable service delivery. What does that mean as far as service delivery and to the resident who is reporting a concern?
So I'm going to take Councilmember Foley, this is Omar. I'm going to take a first pass and then pass it over to Olympia. I think the thing to be mindful of is that the notion of equity really is around making sure that it's not just about like the person who knows how to find the button fast enough or that sort of thing. And so one of the transparencies of this system will be allowing your elected leadership and us to arrive at a sort of system approach to where we go and when we go, understanding that sometimes there are exceptions for safety and various things, but it allows for folks to understand that if we're going to be driven by equitable considerations as a city, that there's going to be a process that everybody knows. It's not all the way written down to the detail, which is why I can't tell you it will specifically mean this as we sit here, but that's conceptually what we're talking about. Olympia, did you want to add?
If I can just add, we know that with our systems like SJ311, that oftentimes the people who will put in requests for those services are folks who know how to use the system. It's in English, even though we've now made it in Spanish and Vietnamese, they understand how to utilize a smartphone, how to utilize this technology, and they're comfortable using it. When I think of equitable, I think about we don't just respond only to the people that report, but we also know those communities, that I call communities that are in need, and we purposely and intentionally direct resources to those areas. I would be looking at Hoffman Viamonte. People may not always report, but we know about the issues that are there, as well as through various neighborhoods throughout the city and making sure that we're very intentional about delivering those services and not just only responding to people that use SJ311 or email or call the council office.
So with that in mind, and that's exactly what I thought you were alluding to, and I just wanted to get that clarification in my head. So in essence, you're prioritizing, which makes sense, and that is what we should be doing. I'm in District 9. My residents use San Jose 311 quite a bit, and I think we're the #2 user behind District 1. If I'm wrong about that, I'm sure the vice mayor will correct me. But I know both of our districts utilize it because they know how to use it and they know how to get information that way. So my question about the prioritization is that when we set up the app, that we let people, we also manage not just the expectations of what we're going to do, but the timing that we're doing. And not that we're saying, okay, you're a high resourced area and therefore we're not going to respond to you, but that it may take us X amount of days to respond is what I'm saying, suggesting that we somehow build into the system a notification of timing or prioritization so people understand. Otherwise, it's going to be confusing for folks maybe. So if I'm calling in or if I'm using the app and my issue or my neighbor's issue isn't as important or as in an area that is underserved, like East San Jose or District 5 or 7 or pick an area, a downtown neighborhood that has more homeless and more encampment situations, how can we manage that timing and that prioritization with our residents?
Councilmember Foley, I think first, yes, I think that gets back to, I think it was Chair Mahan's point and maybe Mayor Liccardo, that we need to set the expectations clear when you call, I think was the language. And I think that's a very good point to what you're getting at. And then I would say also that equity takes a number of forms, right? And so if you are a person who has a disability, for example, or there are other axes when we think about what it means to be driven by equity. And I think what we'll probably do in the design process is workshop a really robust sense of this and interface with council offices or this committee as that prioritization is being developed so that it's equitable on a number of fronts.
Great. I appreciate that. Thank you. I really look forward to this being rolled out or at least coming together in the next updated report and to see it next year online. I think it's very exciting. It will make things simpler, I think, for our staffs to address, and that includes our council offices too. So thank you very much for the report. I look forward to it.
Thanks, council member. Did we have anybody else online? Vice Mayor? No? Okay, I know Councilor McCollum was going to jump back in.
Yeah, I sort of triggered some of my thinking, all this conversation, very valuable conversation that we're having. I was very uncomfortable when I was reading through the memo and the presentation on my own ahead of time because, and I think some of those got pulled out through this conversation and helped me think about why that was. It seemed to me that things were backwards, and I know Councilmember Mahan mentioned this. I think homelessness, the way we deal with it is somewhat different than a lot of the other things that are in SJ 311, right? I mean, I don't think a council office wants everyone to email us when there's a broken streetlight or when there's graffiti in a neighborhood, right? And we know that the system works. You submit an SJ 311, you know, there's a large garbage area and it gets cleaned up. And it's great to bypass and avoid the email and all that for those kinds of, I wouldn't go and call them routine, but the sort of the countable incidents of things. Homelessness is not the same kind of countable incident, right? I mean, yes, there's data involved and we need to know where people are, but we usually know where the people are. We know where these encampments are. When we get emails from the residents in a neighborhood, they're not telling us about an encampment we don't already know about. They're just upset about the current situation that's happening there. There was a fire yesterday. There was you know, somebody's building something. They're making a big mess. They stole something from my yard. Those kind of reports. I anticipate that if we put this in SJ 311, we'll just get a report every time an incident occurs at an existing known encampment. And I'm not sure how that helps anyone in this process. I see homelessness as somewhat of a different kind of concern, and we deal with it differently. And I think it's a concern that I do think still should funnel through the council office. We should know where are the encampments in our district, what are the things that are happening there. And then when we get those kind of situations occurring, we usually try to put together a meeting of multiple residents at the same time to talk to them collectively, try to set proper expectations about what can and can't be done, connect them with the right resources depending on what's happening at that site. And that's a lot different than 30 residents filling out an SJ 311 and saying, there's homeless here, please remove them. And I'm just, so for me, the back end coordination between the council office and what's happening in all of your departments is the key thing that I think is missing right now. We can certainly ask questions and get feedback, but if we had a way of going into a system, seeing the data, saying, yeah, there was outreach there were people relocated, these kind of services are provided. They're not yet involved in trash or cash. Maybe we can help facilitate that. That to me is helpful. I'm not convinced that the public-facing part of this is helpful, right? So, you know, there's expectations, but I feel like that we could consider that in the future, but that the other parts actually would be more helpful in what we do as a city, and I want to make sure we do this in the proper order.
Yeah, Councilmember, it's a reasonable point that you make, and just to tease a couple things out. The first is, it is just true at present that people call us, they call Olympia, they call Andrea, they call probably everybody in this room, right? And so what we have to do on the one hand is manage what is while we fix the system. So maybe we don't increase the size of the funnel and make it super, like really overly lean into that part of it, but we don't get to not respond because they're just still going to call. So I think to your point though, and this is the important part I think, is that as a city, we don't just prevent homelessness and we don't just end homelessness, getting people in the house. Those are both great and super important. We also have a very important role around managing the sort of impacts and incidents and things for people who are housed and unhoused. And part of this system, so you said, well, I'm not really sure how knowledge of fire X or hazardous material Y at a camp we know about helps us. One of the ways it helps us is that we can come back to you and say, as a matter of policy and budget, you need to understand this set of things about these encampments that are not just where they are, but what are the actual impacts on the overall system, right? So so there's a number of layers to what this will allow us to do. I 100% agree with your point that the internal face, which I think is something that a couple of your colleagues alluded to, is wildly important and where we probably our initial energy should focus. It sounds like that's coming through from you, and I think Rob mentioned that as well. So I think we'll take that to heart as we move into this next phase.
And I just want to be clear, obviously, I didn't intend to say that knowing where those things happening isn't important. I mean, obviously it is. I just want to make sure that we're getting information in the proper way and proper channels. In fact, there's even makes me think there's even internal breakdowns. You know, if I go to the fire department and I say how many fires were caused at homeless encampments, they can't readily tell me that. So but there should be data. There should be a way that when they respond to something, it also gets into the system, for example, so that it's all connected, the things that are related to our encampment management. So, but you're right, because this is not about abating, but about managing, I think that makes a significant difference. You know, when there's a burned out light or some graffiti, it is about abating the problem, right? But in this case, we want to make sure it's very clear that this isn't just about I reported it and it's gonna get abated.
It's a very good point, and I will mention, having had portions of this conversation with the fire department in the last month, that I think part of the zoomed out picture, which will be coming back in November and others on, is some of the point you just raised, which is what is the data element that our fire department is capturing, and they actually are, it turns out, which is great. It's very, very helpful. And other departments, because there's 20 some odd departments in the county, and we want them all being able to give us that information so that we can report to you, like, what's really going on here? And so the fire department is a good example of some proactivity in that point.
Yeah, and just one last point that I thought about before too, when we were talking about all the other things that Olympia, your department deals with, right? Whether it's graffiti or dumping or all those things, a lot of them can be tied back to potentially a homeless encampment. For example, there's dumping, it might be, or there's an abandoned vehicle and it could be related to an encampment. So figuring out how to take what we're already receiving and helping that inform us on where the issues are around homelessness, I think, is really what I'm looking for, is how we use the information we already know, but allow offices to have access to it.
And Vice Chair, that's exactly, if you look at the initial priorities, that's where we're weighting things on the first version, is those process improvements, the encampment management piece, with the connectors to some abatement activities and services that we do have, but it's not abatable. Homelessness is not abatable en masse. So that, I think we're all aligned, is what I'm saying. And then we'll keep aligned with you as we do that design process. Your staff has input into that human-centered design exercise. And then also what integrations pay off most. But then what can we send out to the public where it's going to be beneficial? We've seen some peer cities where they have a homeless report thing. You take a picture of a homeless person, and we're like, that does us no good. But if there's an issue that helps inform us and inform our decision making, that's data that we would want. But we are weighted absolutely the way you're describing.
Okay, excellent conversation. Thank you all. I don't see any more hands, so why don't we entertain a motion?
I'll move to accept the report.
Second.
Great, let's vote.
Foley,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Liccardo,
Aye.
Cohen,
Aye.
Mahan.
Aye.
Thank you.
And thank you all, by the way. Really appreciate the update. Excited that you're moving this forward. We're going to welcome, we're on to our final item, believe it or not, Digital Workforce Status Report. We're going to welcome Kelly, Khalid, and Shirley down to the box.
And as they get situated, I'll buy us some time. This is our committee dessert. So like most organizations, the city of San Jose is investing in our evolution towards a hybrid workforce. This is impacting how we run, as well as how we bring new team members into the city. And the Human Resources and Information Technology departments will update us on an effort they're leading to improve the ease of city processes, as well as build the support resources for our effective hybrid workforce. And I believe, Khalid, you're going to begin. All right.
Good afternoon, Mayor. Good afternoon, Chair Mehan, Mayor Liccardo, and council members and members of the public. My name is Khalid Tawfiq. I'm the Chief Information Officer, and we're pleased to be here to present to you the Digital Workforce Status Report. Next to me is Ashish Likani. He's the IT Products and Project Manager, and to his left is Kelly Parmley, Assistant HR Director. The business process approved by City Council falls within the Digital Workforce Initiative in the Powered by People Enterprise Priority, approved in the 22-23 City Roadmap. Our goal is to streamline and automate the process to increase efficiency and service satisfaction by staff and public. To date, our primary focus has been to advance the new business automation platform and improve internal business processes before including public-facing services. There are three core components in the city's digital workforce initiative. One, business process automation, consisting of digitizing paper-based processes and creating new ones. Two, one city workforce, a one-stop shop vision for city staff to easily engage and collaborate with each other. And three, digital and hybrid meeting, which is upgrading public meeting system to digital public interactions. And we had a previous presentation today regarding this matter. There are four main components for business process automation: forms, workflows, approvals, and records. First, we convert paper-based forms into digital forms and make them available online 24/7. Then we build workflows that connect the digital forms with automated routing, permissions, and alerts. In the third step, we add electronic approvals, including electronic signatures, to conclude the process. And the last but not least, we save all these records in a location that is searchable and available online to allow authorized users to access the data. I will turn it now over to Ashish Lakhani.
Thank you, Khalid. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Ashish Lakhiani, Projects Manager at Information Technology Department. The Business Process Automation team uses an objectives and key results framework. Highlights of the objectives and key results are to maximize efficiency with easy-to-use technology that's simple, empower or enable change by creating department champions, and using a platform that's trusted and secure. This year, we celebrate 2 years of business process automation. We had a small start in 2020, we scaled in 2021, and we continue the journey in 2022 with more workforce and cumulative forms, as shown on this slide. We've automated 82 city processes, and we are seeing that requests are processed approximately 60% faster than their paper predecessors. Cumulatively, requests take 17,000 fewer hours each month to route and approve. The strategy has been to learn with internal workflows and apply that knowledge to external or public-facing workflows as needed. The business process automation team is made up of 3 groups of staff. On this screen, we can see that they are the business process automation cross-departmental Scrum team, a steering committee, and an executive team. Members of the steering committee and executive team help to set direction. And on the business process automation cross-departmental Scrum team, we have all our various members shown over there, including me. Although a lot of good work has been done, many team members have left, and we are working to fill in vacancies, which are shown in the red font on the box on the left, the 3 vacancies. Shown on this slide are objectives and key results from July to September 2022. There are 3 colors on this slide. The green represents completed or on-track key results. Yellow represent a slight delay in some of those key results, and red represent a major delay. The delays are due to staffing shortages. We have only 1 full-time resource at Information Technology Department as a Simply Gov developer, and the 3 vacancies shown on the previous slide. Right, so this is a snapshot of a larger business process automation backlog, which has dozens of more potential forms to automate across SimplyGov and PeopleSoft. As we go through our backlog and work on these forms, processes that we want to automate, some of them go through analysis, development, deployment, and then we pick them up from this backlog. Here are some pictures of our cross-departmental Scrum team members. It's a privilege to work with them. I meet them every day, every working day, and they tolerate my sense of humor somehow. They tolerate me. I'm thankful for that as I hold this program as an interim program manager for this program. So thank you to this team. And now I want to hand the ball over to Kelly Parmley from Human Resources.
Good afternoon, members of the public. Kelly Parmley, the Assistant Director for Human Resources. As I was listening to Khalid and Ashish here, you know, I'm reminded when I saw those 10 from March, or actually from 2020, we turned 40% of our workforce out virtually almost overnight in that day. And when I think that the gratitude I had for having a vendor to work with, but then how much it has supported us with that many folks going virtual, it's quite amazing to me. They say it sort of matter-of-factly, and I sort of remember being in and amongst and amidst it, you know, as it was going on. So that was in support of our employees to improve processes and ease the management of processes as well. At the same time, the then Assistant Director for IT, Jerry Dreesen, many of you will remember, and I were having multiple conversations about not only this kind of support for our employees, but also how do we have a better platform for people to be able to figure out other employees, one source of the truth for information, access to these systems and others more effectively. And at the time, with the forethought of Rob Lloyd, we set up a modest portal for folks who are working virtually to be able to get at things more effectively. And from that idea, you know, Jerry and I talked a lot about, well, this isn't going away, so how are we long-term going to solve these challenges that our employees have, just trying to identify each other, try to get access to systems, and have a coherent one set of information that could be one source of the truth. And the reason I have this slide here is that we were anticipating this culture change, particularly as we went to hybrid. So if people are working in mixed environments, they're not in one location anymore with each other, whether it's out in the community or whether it's in a workplace, people have a deep need to engage with one another in very different ways than we had previously. You know, we can't see each other all the time. And then the ability to get good information and receive good information on a regular basis. You know, we have challenges with email for frontline workers or for part-time workers. VPN access was, you know, one challenge we were working to solve so that the intranet wasn't a barrier for folks getting information. And then just one anecdote, we did a virtual scavenger hunt for about 60 executive staff and gave them like a dozen things to go find and see if they could find the right source of truth. And what I do recall from that exercise, that if the team had Jim Shannon on the team, they were more than likely going to get a lot of good information easily, quickly, and expeditiously. However, a system of 7,000 employees can't depend on people like Jim Shannon to be the source of truth, the opportunity to get to a system, and a lot of other things. And I use that, you know, tongue-in-cheek as an anecdote, but it's true in a lean organization and other organizations, not just the city, where people want to go to people to get the information. So culture change means we need to support that culture change with something different. So I'm really proud to say that the first Learning Lab was held in 2020. It had been planned to be done in person, but with the good partners of Civic Makers, we, for the first Learning Lab, set to task 3 different teams in that first Learning Lab, all conducted virtually, to answer 3 questions. How might we create an engaged and informed workforce? How might we virtually optimize productivity? And how might we improve collaboration in a distributed workplace? 3 really important questions. So these are the team members. I'm hoping some of them are watching today because it's been 2 years and they've been waiting to see how we're doing and where we're going. and many of them stayed involved throughout the process. And so what I just offered to you is they used a really rigorous process of human-centered design that Civic Makers puts the teams through, collected a lot of data, and came back with, this is a visual rendering of a conceptual approach to how we might go out and find a vendor that can help us do these three things, which is create a platform where we can inform and engage our workforce, and you can see that examples of that to the far right, so people to people. How might we optimize virtual productivity? We got a bazillion systems around here, and just trying to find the right one and put it in one place is incredibly important for people to do their work efficiently, again, especially in a lean organization, and to have one place, one source of truth, people to information. And so what I just offer to you is that it feels like a long time, but actually this has been incredibly important work, and we're to a place where I'm really grateful for college leadership here, where when I talk about next steps, we were ready to go right to an RFP. Khaled asked some really good questions of us and said, maybe the market has changed a bit, we should do a stronger RFI. And so with his leadership, we're on a path here to do a really strong request for information. We think there's some different vendors out there. They have got to integrate with and be able to access and talk to and relate to our current infrastructure in terms of Microsoft. So we're going to do that. We're going to determine a procurement approach. Really grateful for our finance colleagues in helping us with that, select a vendor, and then get started on being able to do project implementation. So I think that is where I was supposed to conclude. Is that back to?
Were there any other final thoughts? See people looking at each other. No.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Kelly. Thank you all so much. Why don't we go to public comment?
Blair Beekman.
Hi, Blair Beekman here. I found a very interesting article last week as you were having a community meeting on the future of new stoplight cameras. And so I just wanted to note the City of San Jose has launched its Equity Through Data and Privacy program, which aims to improve both equity and accountability in the way the city serves its residents. This was from June, the end of June. So as I talk about continuously the importance, I'm learning to better say the importance of civil protection ideas for the everyday public. It's the ideas of equity and racial equity that I've also tried to occasionally, I try to offer as forms of how to talk about data that you guys are applying at this time. And I think, you know, the uses of how to talk about equity is just infinite in how it can help us as a community and as government, as everyday persons of a community. And so good luck to yourselves. I think with these, with the many automated issues we're talking about and the future of AI issues, you guys were kind of started a new process last fall in this new era of COVID, how to talk about automation and AI. And you're trying to learn to apply a real human rights element to it with ideas of equity. And I think for this item that you're talking about, your how workers can better manage themselves and how you will work, again, it is these equity ideas. It's a human element. It's learning how to bring in that human element to your questions, to your automation process. Great work on the last item. And good luck how you apply these sort of things. Thank you for your work.
Back to the committee.
Great, thank you. Thanks again for the report. Mayor Liccardo?
No, I'm sorry. I think that was number 4.
Oh, apologies.
My bad.
Any of my other colleagues, anybody online?
There's no hands online.
Okay, well, I'll go ahead and ask a question. On slide 9, the business process automation OKRs, I noticed a fair bit of red and yellow. Is that primarily just due to the staffing, the vacancies that were referenced, or is there anything else that we should be aware of?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the good news is all the people who've plugged into business process automation and done the good work, they've gotten promotions.
All right.
So you'll see them in other
Congratulations.
spots. The bad news is they left.
Yeah.
So we do have to rescale some of these items, and then IT, from an update Khaled gave me, it hired an HR person to help them with accelerate their hiring activities. So hopefully we can get those positions filled as quickly as we can and then rescale back to a high capacity. Anything you would add, Khaled?
No, I think you had it correctly. That's the plan. Just we're happy that people are moving up and doing well, and we're looking forward to replace them with qualified candidates.
Absolutely. All right. Well, good luck with that. And then Kelly, on the RFI, I missed the timeline. I think you referenced it at the end. Was the plan to go out this year?
Yes, that's the short answer. I just don't know that I can recall the exact timeline.
That's okay. I mean, what's envisioned here, at least based on slide 15, is pretty robust. Is this? There's probably only a handful of enterprise solutions out there that really check these boxes. Is that right? And assume it's not worth even asking. I mean, we must tie back to the systems we currently have. Is that right? Okay.
Absolutely. It's just we're not trying to add something, a new process or new system to be like a standalone. The thing is, we're looking really for the glue to bring people and process together and make it seamless as much as possible.
Okay. Is there any risk, though, that just is, I don't know, there's been so much innovation and evolution in what these tools are, and obviously my own experiences are really small companies, so probably not applicable, but are we leaving really good tools off the table that a younger workforce is going to be really fluent in and want? I mean, I don't know, one that comes to mind is obviously Slack, for example, but I mean, are there tools out there that are just more flexible and are going to help us attract and retain and motivate new talent that we're leaving off the table? And do we feel okay with that?
That's really why we're doing an RFI. We go in with an open mind. We want people to come in and impress us, show us what they can do. And, if there's something compelling that we want to take some risk and try, I don't see why not.
Okay, good. That's good to hear. I just worry in the large enterprise environment, there's sometimes a risk of going for the broadest feature set versus what's actually most intuitive and flexible and kind of helps foster the kind of culture we want versus having the checklist of every single possible edge case we need to cover. So I just encourage us to keep an open mind there. It sounds like we are.
And then, Chair, two things I'd add, and this is Kelly reminding us on a regular basis, is our shared values and our rituals are actually our culture.
Right.
And they're very different now than when people could shoulder serve, ask a person next door for some help where something is. And on the human-centered design exercise, we've heard this from employees. They're having a problem finding each other, what the resources are, where key information is, and they don't kind of have that support network that we used to have when we're all in person and kind of have the closeness with a lot of colleagues. So this also is a cultural and organizational development investment so that we can try to create that for the modern workforce, exactly as you said, because some people have different preferences of communication. We see that very clearly when we text some employees, they respond right away. Others might be days. Conversely, when we call some employees, they respond right away. Others might be days or weeks. And so, but one of the things we're running into is what is the new normal and what are those cultural practices for the city?
Yeah, makes sense. Really important. Okay. Do we have any hands up at this point?
No hands up online.
Okay. Why don't we entertain a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All right. It's covered somewhere in there. All right. Let's vote.
Foley,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Ricardo,
Aye.
Cohen,
Aye.
Mahan.
Aye.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you to staff for the great update. Really appreciate it and all the work you're doing. Why don't we go to open forum?
Blair Beekman.
Hi, Blair Beekman. Thanks for the meeting today. A reminder piece, open dialogue and open accountable policies can accomplish a lot more in this life compared with continual war and its harm and how to work to solve our issues. As an idea to also to consider, can we continue a community study session process this fall in how to create voting rights for those with less than full citizenship in San Jose? And from this, can all sides be invited to also work towards more clearly understood county voting procedures and to possibly address more streamlined citizenship and permanent resident status procedures and specialized visas as well. This can help address all of our current voting issues at this time in Santa Clara County and ways to invite all parts of the community how to share good ideas with a progressive good direction. and can be of help for the decisions needed to be made at the California state court system level in the next few years. To note, I also hope a study session can work that's already started about the problems of 1980 Reagan era English only laws can also be included in this study session process. Can City Clerk Tony Tabor please write back to myself soon with a simple email letter of reply if there can be a way a continuation of a Community of San Jose voter eligibility study session process can take place this fall. Thank you a lot for the meeting today. I guess I don't have too much else to say. I'm trying to think of, obviously I always have something to say. Oh, I guess maybe just to end, in San Diego, they have a committee, a city government committee called Transportation and Mobility. Good luck how we can work on such issues in San Jose. Thank you.
Back to the committee.
Great. Thank you. Thanks again to city staff, and we're adjourned.